life experience with young adult drive and ambition. Are you just starting to college plan? Did you finish your education and wonder, now what? Join us in this lively discussion about the topics you need to know to create the next stage of your life's dreams, careers, finances, education, and more. Brought to you by Voice for Heroes 501c3. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Education, Career, and Beyond podcast. Am I the only one hearing this craziness? This show is meant to happen today. All I'm going to say is it's a weird technology thing taking place, but that means that we are supposed to be inspired and empowered today, and we are meant to be. We have an incredible guest with us today, Celina Shands. I'll tell you about her in just a moment. As always, we have Ed Sanderson, our co-host, and we are wishing Capri all the best right now as she is taking finals at Purdue University. But this is all about entrepreneurism, marketing, really going above and beyond those next levels of pushing through and endurance. And what I love, and I'm going to just share this part for her because she's going to tell us about it, but Celina started a virtual business 21 years ago. So everyone do the math. Think about what you were doing 21 years ago when YouTube was only dog videos, if we even had it then at all. And we are going to hear about what she has done and accomplished and hopefully inspire other future entrepreneurs, business leaders, and also discuss the power of marketing and branding and all of that. Welcome to the show, Celina.
Wow, I'm so glad the technology held for us. Hi, Amy. Hi, Ed. It's just a pleasure to be here, and we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I don't shut down. Oh, so kick us off, Celina. I would love if you could, for a few minutes, just share your background so that our audience understands really who you are and what brought you to this powerful message you have for us today.
Sure, I'd love to. So the accent you hear is North Carolina. I grew up in the deep South, and I've been in California since, oh my gosh, probably since 35 years ago. So a long time. 10 in San Francisco, and then down here in San Diego with you guys.
I love that, a virtual world, and we find different neighbors.
So great. And, I guess the message is really interesting. I grew up in a poverty-stricken neighborhood with an alcoholic family. So a lot for me was about finding the right people to guide me along the pathway. And that I did. And I was very fortunate to get a basketball scholarship in college, which helped me to pay for my school. And then I went on from there. And I always knew I wanted to have my own company. I just thought, it would be so great to be your own boss. But the pathway was certainly not linear by any stretch of the imagination. And how I ended up here actually leaned into my athletic background and started a company for doctors. That was my first company called Life at Its Peak, where I helped doctors integrate sports medicine and marketing into their practice. And then from there, it just kind of went, when you stop and think about your life and you look back, I know you two have the same feeling. It's like, wow, why did that happen then? And then you realize, oh, that's the reason why, because it got me to this next place. The company's been around, the current company. In between, I did start another company and sold that. And full capacity marketing has been around for 21 years. We have been virtual. And let me tell you, it was good old phone call and email back before YouTube and Zoom and everything else. So it's been quite the response to Zoom meetings after COVID. I've been very happy that people have gotten in the online bandwagon.
I love that. Oh, I could make you laugh. When I started 20 some odd years ago in wholesale mortgage in Southern California, I was that cell phone with the earpiece and the flip phone, and I had a calculator taped to my steering wheel. So I could and still be functioning and virtually do what I needed to do and hit all the accounts and be effective.
Yes.
It was
I
literally
love it.
clear taped to my steering wheel.
Yeah, technology just helps it. Well, today it didn't really help us, but it usually does help, but really the systems are the same. When you're an entrepreneur, you got to build those relationships, build your brand, follow through, execute well, build results, and get the word out about who you are and what you do. That really is the process, and how we do that. Technology has certainly changed that. Thank goodness. So it's a lot easier these days.
No doubt about it.
I'm not going to step on Ed's feet. I promise. I'm not going to do this to you. And I swear you're going to get to speak. But you just hit something that really made me want to ask your opinion with what you just described is exactly how we had to do it, especially 20 years ago. We flip phones, in-person relationships, driving door to door, follow up, follow up, follow up. What are you noticing different today as you explain this to our next generation and what that really looks like? Where are you noticing where technology has actually created some of a disconnect in that?
Right. I think some of the human touch has lost its flavor, if you will. And it's so important. The follow up, first of all, is really important. I always think face to face meetings are a good start for any business owner, to get to know people. You just get a different vibe when you're face to face versus online. But once that relationship has been established, and you can have lots of different touch points with people like LinkedIn, all the technology components on social media, setting yourself up as a subject matter expert through blogging, speaking at conferences, those types of things, just good old, trying to find a win-win with that person. But the follow-up is so important because that says a lot about your personal brand, and they're intricately linked with your company, because if you don't follow up in a timely manner or you leave someone hanging, that trust is going to be diminished. So a lot of it is building the trust. Technology can help you with that through texting, like I said, LinkedIn and things like that. And not just reaching out to people when you need something. It's kind of like that neighbor, right? Who, I don't have one, but in a previous neighborhood, I had this neighbor that she made these great homemade like cookies. I never got any, but she'd come over and borrow flour and milk and all that. And every time I'd see her coming, I'm like, where are the cookies? Where are they? And so, you think about personal relationships and business relationships are the same thing. If you're always knocking on the door and asking somebody for something and you're never giving anything of value, that's an imbalance. So you really have to think about that.
Great analogy.
No, that was fantastic. I like that a lot because that happens. It doesn't happen as much now where people knock on the door and ask for ingredients, but there's always a neighbor or a friend who's asking for something.
Exactly. It's got to be a win-win. And that's what you try to find as an entrepreneur, I think, as a human being and in business as well. If you go in with that servant leader mindset, like, what do I have of value that can help this person? Or maybe it's just getting to know them and building the relationship first so that you can drill into that at a later date.
Yeah, I think the value of giving is kind of something that I don't know that young people really understand. I always tell people, young kids, young adults, kids, I think when they ask for a letter of recommendation, if and when that happens, don't come empty handed. Give them some brownies. I mean, I think the old school apple on the desk thing is probably long gone, but some brownies or a gift card show appreciation. I think that's a lesson that may have been missed somewhere along the line, that communicating with people in person, handwritten notes and gifts of
Google
appreciation.
review.
Yes.
Thankful for those.
Yeah, all of the above, a simple thank you and staying in touch. I'll even, there's customers that I haven't worked with 3-4 years, but I still stay in touch with them. And I'll find an article or something that, reminds me of them and said, oh, I hope you're doing well. I just saw this. This might be of interest. How are things going? That type of thing. Just staying in touch.
Yes.
I don't know if that's my Southern roots or what, but we did that a lot in the South.
That's how we did it here. I was always Southern California, but that's how I've run my business and my networking for 20 plus years in multiple careers.
Yes. Yeah. Relationships are really the solid foundation of everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Celina. I like that concept, but I have a friend of mine who moved from Southern California to North Carolina. He said the day he moved in, it was sweet tea and it was pecan pie.
That's
and
right.
By the end of his first year there, he gained like 25 pounds. People were super friendly, and the neighbor thing was a happening thing in the South. That's probably the one thing he missed when he moved back here.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I had the complete opposite. Like when I moved to the Bay Area from my little hometown, and I got on BART and the subway and everything, and everybody in North Carolina, you make eye contact, you say good morning, hello, and I thought,
not on the BART.
There's a lot of people on this train, and so I'm like, good morning, how are you? Hello, nice to see you. And the newspapers come up like this. And I
Yeah.
sat next to this lady and I pushed it down and said, "Hey, today's my first day in California." She had some explicitives to say. And then I
I'm
was like, oh,
sure.
Oh
so
my
people
goodness.
out here were like, you got to close it down. You got to like wear sunglasses and, not look at people. So it was a major culture shock moving from where I grew up to the Bay Area. It was
Oh, I'm
just,
sure.
took me about 3 years, but I finally got the
Oh,
hang
wow.
of it.
By the way, young people, eye contact's a big deal. I mean, we're
Such a
we're
big
getting these
deal.
little gems from Celina about make eye contact, shake somebody's hand, shake it like you mean it. Celina, let me ask you a question about you mentioned basketball,
Mhm.
college, in your growing up in a challenging situation. A friend of mine called me last night and he said, "Hey, two young kids showed up at my house, 16 and 12, that were running away from home. They were in an abusive environment." And he said he felt so bad. I want to know if you can just expand on the value and the power of a coach in
Mhm.
athletics and teammates that help create not only an environment to grow and succeed, but also to give you the incentive and the power to achieve more, particularly for somebody who's coming from a background that might be a little bit more challenging, doesn't have the typical two-parent home, or maybe they've got two parents, but they're working all the time. How can you find leadership and guidance, and how did sports play a role in that for you?
Wow, that's such a great question, Ed. And it is very true that sports can play a huge role in guiding you and teaching you about yourself. I was always drawn to that. I guess there's not a lot to do in the South where I grew up. So Amy and I were talking earlier, we ride horses and, I was more of a big tomboy. And even before I did organized sports, just playing like a pickup game at the park with softball and things like that, and then getting into like a little league or something like that, and finally into school. Depends on where your passion is. So I always say first lean into what you're good at. Maybe you're really good at volleyball, or a tennis, anything. It can be anything. But what happens is you learn a lot from competition. And I don't know what it is. People always tell me I have the most tenacity. I don't give up on anybody or anything, nor do I give up on myself. And
I love that word.
yeah, it's a great word because sports teaches you that. You can be down like a basketball game. Oh my gosh, by 20 points. Are you just going to give up, or are you going to find a way? So it really helps build that yeah, the tenacity in you, the getting out there, moving forward. And then when you have a coach, I always went to my coaches and said, "Hey, I'm playing sports so I can stay out of the house. Can you stay with me a little later and work on my skills, or can you help me with my homework, or what would you recommend for me?" Because I didn't have that guidance. Fortunately, my older sister, did raise me, but she had her own challenges she was growing up with in that environment. So, to the young people out there who feel that there's no hope, know that there is. People do care.
Mhm.
Find it any way you can. Ask for that help in school if you're struggling, or just get out there and swing a bat, go to a batting cage, do something fun. You'll meet so many great people. And that leads you, again, we go tie it back to that relationship piece, right? It's who you know, and then building that foundation.
I
Wow,
love
Celina,
that.
I have to personally share this with you. And I know I'm segueing a little bit. Sorry, Ed, but you bring up tenacity. It was so big for me. There was a big life moment that I learned from that. Back in 2008 was when I was given the first opportunity to open for a major artist as a recording artist and started touring. I was given the Yes by Clint Black for the 4th of July show in
Wow.
Arizona, right? But what was so I was going door to door asking for the business and going to the casinos trying to get that first big show. Well, when I got the call from the marketing director from that big casino in Arizona, they said that the person that met me left a post-it note on my marketing package, a paper marketing package, everyone, in a manila envelope that said, "This girl has tenacity. Hire her for the 4th of July." And that was my first big break that allowed me to go on and open for some of the biggest artists in country music for the next years. But the word was tenacious. This girl has tenacity. Hire her. And I think it wasn't that I was any better singer or than anybody else that they could have given that opportunity to, but it's because I really went for the ask and I was tenacious. And I just wanted to share that with you. And I thought it was relevant with what you were sharing.
That is an amazing story. Congratulations. I love Clint Black, by the way. And of course, I
He's
love
so
country
nice.
music, being from the South. But the other thing
Notice
that
my last name. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But another thing you said, Amy, that rings true is I bet you went through a lot of no's before you got a yes.
Oh, so many. I
So
still do.
many. So many.
So many.
And so there are going to be times out there where you all are like, oh God, I tried this and it didn't work. Do not give up. Especially on something you're passionate about. When I started Full Capacity Marketing, by the way, I started the company because I found an abandoned cat. And I said, well, I need to stay home with the cat because he had special needs. So I always say the motivator for Full Capacity Marketing was a cat named Sheldon. But
Oh, Sheldon.
Sheldon would file my papers and I would be dialing for dollars and building relationships. And I got another no, got another no. 2.5 years into the company, Department of Labor called me and they said, hey, we saw this project. We saw you speak at a conference and we'd like to give you this money. It's not a lot. It's only $250,000. And I'm sorry, I wish it was more money.
I'm leaving.
I put myself on mute and I go, Sheldon, because there was no Zoom. I'm like, Sheldon and I were doing our happy dance, do. And then I very calmly, I said, that's okay. We'll make it work. And that was like my first break, to have that large contract where I could start growing the company now and bringing on people like that. So you just don't know, like who know? I don't even know who was in the audience seeing me speak that day or talking or whatever.
No.
You just don't know. And you are going to get a lot of no's. And that's okay, because you're going to learn how to tweak the next thing you do or say or pitch or whatever to say, oh, okay, this gives me the better results. It's a learning process and everybody has to go through it. So don't be afraid of the no's.
Ed, how many no's have you had?
I don't even know where to start. A lot. But what's interesting about that, back to young people, they might not be accustomed to that, right, Celina, Amy?
Yes.
So I think the real question that I have related to that is that you really only get that through experience. And I'm kind of curious, how does a young people kind of get their mind wrapped around the idea? Like, I know it happens in college education, right? Like, you apply to college, you get no's. But that's like really the first time that they apply for something and they don't know what the results are going to be. And they get probably half no's, half yes, or 3/4 no, quarter. I mean, how do you help when you're mentoring young women? How do you get them to understand that's part of the process and it's not personal? It's just how business works.
So true. Well, in our company, I have a culture of everybody has to speak their mind and put their opinions on the table. So I may come to the table with a project and say, okay, now here are my ideas. Now I want you to redline everything. I want to hear everything you're thinking and why. And so it's getting people used to talking, especially to their boss, to say, I don't think this is going to work, or I think this is a better way of doing things. And all opinions, that diversity is allowed. So that is sometimes not in a culture in a company. It is in mine. And I like to mentor people that way at team meetings because they then get their voice and they're confident in their voice. As a young person, it goes back to that mentorship. And one of your goals could be, hey, I really want to learn how to be in a business meeting. Can I do, and maybe there are a lot of internship, mentorship, work-based learning project or programs at community colleges, but also in high school. So you could talk to your counselor about that and see if you can get in with a company to just get that experience. We have an internship program here, and I'm always working with young people to groom them in marketing if that path that they're going towards. Just because it's so important. And I have found that you got to find your voice, and it's not like an aggressive voice. It's just being confident that you're putting your opinions out there, and you're also okay to ask questions. As a leader, and I've been in this for years and years and years now, I used to think that I had to know everything. And then it's just the opposite. You're a better leader when you show that vulnerability and say, gosh, I don't know, what do you guys think? And you start surrounding yourself. I think a young person right now, my director of marketing is 23. She's amazing. And she finished college a year early. And I'm doing this mentorship program with her because I want to groom her as a young leader in the company. And it's around finding her voice and putting things out there. And she says, when I come on Zoom, people see how young I am, but I'm an old soul. And I said, that's how you need to introduce yourself. So we're actually putting together an elevator speech for her. So when she introduces herself, she overcomes that just visually when people see that she's 23. So that's just something we're working on right now. But find that elevator speech too. I'm giving people so much homework today. They're going to turn this off and say, no, too much.
No, but that is
better not.
brilliant, and especially for women. I joked when I turned 50 that I was finally old enough to be taken seriously and young enough to still take action. And that's how it felt, because there was all of those years pushing my way through, even as a TV host or the different careers I've had as an artist. I was too young to be taken seriously in some of those positions. And it is difficult. So the fact that you're helping this amazing young woman find her introduction so that she can put credibility right at the forefront with the first words out of her mouth, so that people don't question her ability and her intellect. It's brilliant.
That's it. And young people may say, well, I don't have any credibility. I've been in school. Yes, you do. Think about, okay, maybe you've been an athlete. Maybe you've run a club or been in a club. Maybe you've led something in your class, a class project. Yes. All of those things are part of your elevator pitch. I'm really excited to get in the world of work. And here's how I've been preparing myself in high school. Yes. Or here's what I've done in college. Those things make all the difference in the world. As an employer, when I have a young person come in and tell me those things, I get goosebumps. I get very inspired by that. It's like, wow, they're taking action. They can execute on something. So you build your own resume. You don't have to have work experience on that. What have you done in school, right? That can be shown to an employer.
By the way, I think we know what an elevator pitch is. There might be some young people listening that's like, what is an elevator pitch? So maybe, Celina, you can kind of give us a definition of an elevator pitch. And it kind of leads into my other question, which is building a brand, an individual brand. How do those pieces come together?
Yeah, so an elevator pitch is a very short, it could be 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or even up to a minute of, let's just say you're at a meeting and someone says, oh, I'm going to go around the room and have everybody introduce. Well, what are you going to say besides your name and your title, right? And it takes some work to kind of think through it. You also have to know your audience. So you're showing our website here, and we've got different verticals that we work with. A vertical is a segment of the market. So we work with education, like community colleges, adult schools, high schools. We work with workforce agencies who try to train people, and then we work with entrepreneurs. If I'm in front of a group of entrepreneurs, I may be leaning into more in my elevator speech about how we can build brand awareness of up to 20% in the first year of working with you, helping your profitability. That might be a message for a entrepreneur group. If it's workforce and education, they're interested in attracting students and recruiting them into programs. So I may talk about that. So you may have different, and I'm working with my director again. She's doing this. She's doing different elevator pitches. So that's what an elevator pitch is. It totally ties into your own brand, because first impressions mean everything, right? So when you stand up, rather than saying, I'm Celina and I'm in the 10th grade and this is the school I go to, and then you sit back down, rather than standing up and just saying, hi, I'm Celina, I'm in the 10th grade, this is my school, and I love this school because these are the things I'm learning that I'm really passionate about and want to apply them. You see the difference in that versus your name and your age and all of that. What little nugget can you bring to the table? And it takes some work to kind of think through it, but it's usually who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and the benefits you bring or the problems you're solving. Now, a young person may not say, well, I mean, I have that experience. So that's why I say lean into what you're passionate about. And maybe you do have aspirations like, I want to solve world hunger. I know that's a lofty goal, but I'm learning everything I can to try to make that a reality.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
also wrapping in all their community service work into that conversation,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think discovering that early is important. And we talked early in this conversation about giving, and you have something to give. A young person participating in something like that in college does help them with an identity. It helps them have a story to tell. It allows them to become passionate about something. And it's at an early enough age is that they can change, evolve, adapt, do something different. But it
Yes.
does allow them to have experience to go alongside their education. And I think that's the key, which is get some experience. And it doesn't always have to be, I got a job at coffee shop, ice cream
Mhm.
shop, restaurant. It can be, I went out in the community and I did something, because that's what schools are
Mhm.
looking for. And if you don't have any practical work experience, that's what a company is going to look for. What did you
Yes.
do with your time that you can talk about? And I think that helps shape the brand as well, right? So I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's perfect. I remember my first job, it was at Rose's Five and Dime store, and I was trying to make some money. And I remember going there and they said, well, you don't have any work experience. I said, well, how am I going to get work experience
You
if
don't
no
get
one gives me a shot?
Right.
And I said, I'm a really hard worker. And I said, and what I told her, how I got the job, I said, I go to the barn every weekend and I trade out horseback riding lessons for shoveling out stalls and feeding the
Oh,
horses. So I'm a hard worker. And that's what got me the job. Just by saying that, I had zero
Yeah.
experience, but I tried to draw on something. It's like, well, that's work for sure. Amy, you know
Right.
that from riding horses.
yes. Oh, yes.
You know what I love? My daughter, when I first got divorced, my daughter took riding lessons, and the one thing the instructor, I paid. This always cracked me up. I didn't get this at first, but the instructor would make her get the horse out, put it away, shovel out the stuff,
Everything.
Yeah.
brush it, feed it, and I was like,
And the
I'm
hooves.
paying for that.
Yes.
But what I didn't understand at that time was that she was teaching her the
Yes.
responsibility that comes with this partnership with this animal, that animal deserves respect. It needs to be taken care of because it's going to take care of you. I
Yes.
think anything that you can do to I
Well
think
said.
the word menial work is a thing nobody wants to hear about,
Yeah.
but it set the stage because my daughter, her first job in a restaurant, she was taking out the trash, she was bussing tables, and it's like I'm outside waiting for her to get out of work. It's 11:30 and she's taking trash out. I was like, wow, that's almost like a lost thing where you have to actually work.
Yes.
But which is weird because I know we're talking about virtual stuff, but
Yeah.
it does beg this question. On your website, it talked about skills. You teach skills. What type of skills are important in the 21st century for young people to learn to make those strides in business or in their career?
Well, the skills we teach at Full Capacity Marketing are really all about if someone wants to go into marketing, right?
Mm,
However, because we work with education and workforce organizations, we know this audience really well because they're always doing internships, mentorships, and things like that. And they call them the set of soft skills, which I really agree with that. Soft skills are things like how you communicate. Do you look in someone's eyes when you talk? Are you able to communicate well verbally from the written word? Do you shake someone's hand? Do you ask questions? Do you for clarifying? Those are kind of things that you're really not taught in school.
right.
You
Right.
really aren't. It's more of, oh, I'm going in to be an engineer. And so therefore I need these prerequisites to get in there. So any soft skills, that's where I think a mentor can really help you,
Yes.
help groom you and help you in with all those skill sets as communications. But if
Yes.
you're
Public
interested
speaking, interviewing, all of those. That's
in
what I do.
interviewing, yeah,
Yes. So
exactly.
important.
Yes,
We're still
definitely.
working on Ed. He's a little shy. We're working on him on his
Yeah,
Oh,
conversations and his,
Ed.
you
Maybe
know,
you'll come out of your shell, Ed.
one of these days. One of these days, for sure. I've been fascinated with this conversation. I asked my questions, Amy. If you got any more questions, let's let Celina ask one or two and then promote the website and let's get her out of here because she's doing important work.
Celina, I'm so impressed. And what I love is your passion for especially young women in entrepreneurism, but in all young adults, the fact that you're giving these internship opportunities, you're giving these mentorship opportunities. I see a lot of times that disconnect with professionals that have been running businesses for a lot of years, that just because they don't necessarily understand our Gen Zers, they're not bridging that gap. And I'm so impressed that you're bridging the gap because it's so important that we see that we do need them. Um, uh, I have 6 kids total, and they're all grown. The youngest, a second year of college, and I learned so much from her and her friends, along with the other
Yes.
young adults. That there are parts of who I am and how I work that wouldn't be there without what I've learned from them. And so I love this cohesive relationship that you're bringing in of your experience and then building them up. Do you feel that as a community, are there more things that we could be doing to continue bridging this gap of us
Well,
all
I
as we move
love what you
generations?
guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing, having these kind of conversations, just very practical things that, even if you take just one nugget and, learn from as many different people, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is so critical in our world today. And we can see and how one direction it's going very awry, and you've got other sets of people who really believe in that philosophy. I'm one of those, because I think, and I've learned this in business, the more diverse my team is,
Hmm.
age, race, ethnicity, backgrounds, everything, the better my product is going to be in my company, because those diverse voices really come together. So that's why I say be proud of your voice, even if you think your questions are silly or whatever. That really says a lot that you're able to even put a question on the table. Just say, I'd like something clarified, and then ask your question. And I just think just having these little nuggets that you guys are bringing to the table are fantastic. Learn from as many people as you can.
And then you
Excellent.
get a whole bunch of awards like Celina has on her desk. If you're not you're only on the audio, I can't even count them. I know she lists them on her LinkedIn page, but I want to say there's like 20, 22 awards on that. Am I
You,
shorting you, Celina? How many
you,
awards do you have on that table?
Ed, you're shorting me, and I'm really upset by that. I'm
You
just
should
teasing,
be.
of course.
Yeah.
I was telling Ed, when you're in business for 21 years, you're bound to get a few. But again, it's the talented team that I have behind us, and
Yeah.
we all work to. These aren't my awards; it's our awards as a company, because everybody plays a role in what we do, which is so much fun because everybody owns it. Then, so it's 75 and growing, and
Whoa.
yeah, all
You need a
kinds of
bigger table. Some shelf.
and it's just a blast. I love going to work every day with the people on our team and our interns and just everybody. It's just a lot of fun.
I tell you what, I agree with what you said and what Amy said. Working with young people is so inspiring. They've got the energy, they've got the
Mhm.
passion. I'm working with 2 young chefs right now. I can't even keep up with them, but it is really exciting to get the infusion of their young lives and their experience. And then they ask you questions and you
Yeah.
realize they're still young, they're learning. It's really, I would encourage anybody to mentor somebody
Yes.
and put yourself into someone's life, pass on the knowledge you have, help them grow. So I'm excited that you're doing that. That's really cool. But I know you're a busy woman, so we're going to get you out of here. It's Southern California, so we got about 5 minutes before it gets dark out right now anyway. Um, hey, Celina, it was wonderful to have you. This is Celina Shands with Full Capacity Marketing, a professional who's been doing it remotely for 21 years. She was a pioneer, and I love what she said in one of our introductions. Like it's a good time for people to get caught up in the reality that you can do amazing things from home with video conferencing like Zoom and some of these other places and YouTube. So I'm glad to see that. And us older mature people are now getting the ideas like, hey, we can get comfortable doing this. The young people figured this out a long time ago, but you did too, so that's really empowering as well. um fantastic having you. So listen, Amy's the best. She's the co-host, and I know Capri's working hard to get those great grades at Purdue. So on behalf of my two co-hosts, this is Ed Sanderson. This is the Education Career and Beyond podcast. I know you love this episode, so give us a thumbs up. I'm sure there's a young person or adult who would enjoy it, so share it with somebody and subscribe, because we put these amazing interviews together all the time, and you will have another one coming your way next week. Hope to talk to you soon.